Hey there everybody, you're watching the Brotherhood of Gaming. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a regular, welcome back. Guys, they did it! Capcom pulled through! My friends, Mega Man 11 is here. After years of just absolutely nothing, it finally happened. Now, if you're familiar with our channel, or maybe even not, we've done a lot of Mega Man related videos and content over the years. I mean, we've had months dedicated to the Blue Bomber, we've done old playthroughs, we've even reviewed a few of the games from time to time, and I currently am in the middle of doing a Mega Man X marathon. And it turns out, right now, as it so happens, Mega Man's 30th anniversary is here, and Mega Man 11 came out just in time. Finally, something we could be truly excited about. No, this time I'm sure it'll actually be good. I hope so.
I fully enjoyed the Mega Man X Legacy Collection with all of the special perks and bonuses. It definitely was a huge quencher to the thirst of Mega Man love that I was waiting for. And now, that wait is over. Capcom a short while ago announced that Mega Man 11 was indeed in the works, but unlike the previous classic Mega Man game entries where they stuck to their 8-bit roots with fairly moderate success, this entry proved to be an ambitious one because for the first time since Mega Man 8 back on the PlayStation, our Blue Bomber friend would be making a console leap showing how his platforming shooting adventures could perform and look for a new generation.
Now, our friends at Capcom might not have wanted to stray too far from the formula that is Mega Man's legacy, but over the years, Capcom's changed. The innards of what the company used to be might not be the same as it was 30 years ago. Do these guys still know how to make a quality Mega Man game and get back in the good graces of the Mega Man fans? Well, let's find out. This is Mega Man 11.
Before we get started, I think it's a no-brainer, but guys, this review is going to have major spoilers for pretty much everything. Story or not, the gameplay experience is the major focus of Mega Man, so fair warning is in order, okay? Okay, good. Mega Man's storyline for the most part has always been a safe one. We know by and large it branches into continuity madness, but as for the actual games, when it comes to classic Mega Man, his adventures never really get too involved. It's no secret that despite the themes, schemes, and maybe even a few new character introductions every now and then, it all goes back to a crazy old man named Dr. Wily building or capturing 8 oddly specific robot masters in his quest to dominate the world and prove to everyone and Dr. Light that he's the most intelligent yada 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 same bullshit different week.
Alright, let's get real for a second. I mean, what's wrong with giving Dr. Wily the death penalty at this point? I mean, how many people has Dr. Wily murdered over the years with all his schemes and inventions and things? Actually, if you really want to think about it, Mega Man is truly justified in murdering Dr. Wily because, yeah, we know robotics rule number 1 is robots can't harm humans, but how many humans has Mega Man murdered by letting Dr. Wily live?
Yeah, well, anyway, the story overall is just another soap opera episode among the many. It makes no connection to any of the past adventures, and it keeps things relatively simple. In previous Mega Man adventures, we've had characters like Bass or Proto Man show up in stages, and even allow themselves to be playable on the adventure. But this time, it feels like we're just going to be sticking with Mega Man. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Bass or Proto Man became DLC in the future. I mean, you never know. For the plot summary, Dr. Wily has a dream about his early days with Dr. Light at the Robotics University, revealing how, even then, these two just could never see eye to eye. Dr. Wily invented a gear system to increase the capabilities of robots to be further used as tools, while Dr. Light encouraged the idea of unity between man and machine. The Council refused Dr. Wily's idea, and despite Light's attempts to help Dr. Wily, the man is just not hearing any of it. He wakes up from his dream with reignited motivation to try his gear system from his youth in hopes to finally defeat Mega Man. Meanwhile, back at Light's lab, all our friends are tuning up the new robots Dr. Light has built for further helping humanity. Still, I think when you create robots called Acid Man and Blast Man, you're just asking for trouble. And Blast Man, of all people, is running a damn theme park. Are we sure Dr. Wily needed to convert this guy? I mean, it just kind of seems like Blast Man was an accident waiting to happen. Well, I suppose if you go there, you'll have a blast. Also, not sure what use humanity could get out of Bounce Man either. I don't know, unless maybe he's an expert on bouncy castles. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it. Right on cue, Dr. Wily shows up, and using his new toy, he captures all the new Robot Masters, making his getaway. Well, that's what's implied, though you only see him make off with one of them. I don't know, I guess he's just gonna have to make 7 more trips. Mega Man announces he's gonna go after him, as naturally he would, but in a weird way, the dialogue here kinda bothered me. I mean, it's not bad, but nobody really seems to be addressing that Dr. Wily is at his schemes again for the umpteenth time. And Dr. Light seems to be responding to Mega Man like, "Are you sure you want to go after him? You seem determined, I won't stop you." Almost like this is his first rodeo doing it. I mean, on top of that, they all react in shock that Dr. Wily is doing this. Guys, it's Tuesday. Honestly, I feel like the opening dialogue when it comes to dealing with Wily could have been handled a little better, at least going as far to acknowledge that this asshat is a regular pain in the arse. We know it's a continuation, but I don't know why, but the dialogue feels sort of soft rebootish, even though it's not. Maybe it's for the sake of new players of today's generation so they don't feel like they missed out on something. Dr. Light remembers Wily's double gear system from their youth and informs Mega Man that without going through an upgrade in order to use it himself, he's not going to be standing much of a chance against Wily this time. However, the double gear system apparently is dangerous as it puts a heavy strain on the robot systems. What does that ultimately mean in terms of actual gameplay? Honestly, not much. Just having to endure recharge time. Actually, it's kind of funny. In this game, Dr. Light supplies the deadly 8 robots, and Dr. Wily ends up giving you a really nice gear piece to help you out. Just wasn't either one's intention. Funny if you think about it. A few days later, Dr. Light equips Mega Man with a new gear system ability, and from there, everybody wishes him the best. Otto claims he'll always be there to help him out, but from a considerable safe distance. In the lab. And here is where the game truly begins. Now, I don't know about you, but difficulty selection is a weird thing for me. You see, I like to have a fun adventure that's not too balls to the wall challenging, but not exactly a walk in the park either. I like a balance. But then they gotta throw the insults. I mean, come on, really? Yeah, superhero mode. Only for the truest and most hardcore real Mega Man fans. Gee, thanks.
Hey, I'm Drew. I'm hardcore. I'm badass.
So yeah, how about that? It turns out superhero mode is actually quite challenging. How challenging? Well, let me give you an idea. I had to buy an upgrade just for health drops to appear. Oh yeah. Actually, on superhero mode, the game feels a lot more akin to Castlevania games where it really just doesn't take much to kill you. Enemies start becoming health sponges. They deal far more damage, the health drops are pretty much non-existent until you buy something for them, the E-tank placements are now all blank. Really, the only real perk to playing on this mode is that item drops for the bolts are now far more common, which means you're likely going to have plenty of currency. If anything, buying anything on this mode won't be as hard, as just one stage in, I was able to max out my E-tanks, afford plenty of lives, and purchase some upgrades to boot. I guess we can talk about that for a second. Either depending on which stage you finish, or how many, Dr. Light will add new upgrades Mega Man can purchase with bolts to help make the situation a little easier. Some upgrades include an auto charge, a wider blast radius making it easier to hit those smaller annoying enemies, a cooler for the gear system so its charge time is less strict, a shoe upgrade to increase control upon slippery surfaces, which I highly recommend, and other various restorative items. Oh, and trust me, if you are playing on this mode, my friends, you are going to need to buy these things as soon as possible. Like I said, aside from currency, restorative item drops are pretty much just non-existent until you buy the upgrade just to allow them to be. And until you get used to the level layout and enemy placement, you are gonna die, and die, and die again. You only have 2 lives to start out with, and checkpoints can be pretty far into a stage, so if you screw up, it's back to the beginning. But you know what? Despite all of that, I found the added challenge to be quite exhilarating. Sure, it can be frustrating, and it is, but that was part of the fun, and it actually brought back memories from my youth when I'd get super pissed at the TV screen for an on-screen death. You know, with today's games being so mercifully generous with little to no consequence for failure, it kinda was a bit of a breath of fresh air to play a classic game where I had to plan things carefully. Knowing when the right time was to use an E-Tank, knowing that if I ran out and died at the last minute, I was in for a world of hurt and grinding just to be able to buy more. That's the kind of fun thrill you really just don't see too much in games today. It was a welcomed reminder of the good old days, when you really had to work for a victory. However, despite the challenge, I never found it to be unfair. It was hard, yes, very hard actually, but I never found myself screaming bullshit or complaining about it being unreasonable. The bosses, however, are kind of a different matter. They all do have patterns that require learning in order to do well against them, since they will be using the double gear system as well, similar to Mega Man. But on superhero mode, I think they do get a little excessive and overboard sometimes, especially with the speed gear abusers. Even with my abilities, some of these guys are way too sporadic, and without their proper weaknesses, I find myself having to chug down multiple E-Tanks in one fight just to stay alive. On normal mode, I know that they aren't as crazy and can be very manageable. For example, let's take a look at Blockman here. Here's what you're dealing with on normal difficulty. And here he is on super. So yeah, you can see there is a bit of a considerable difference. But hey, it's ultimately up to you to make the decision on how you want your Mega Man 11 adventure to be. Pleasant or pleasantly painful? Here's a hint.
Don't make my mistake.
So like in good Mega Man fashion, you get to choose from 8 thematically designed stages related to the Robot Master you choose to fight. Block Man, Bounce Man, Impact Man, Tundra Man, Acid Man, Fuse Man, Torch Man, and Blast Man. Each stage features their own creative obstacles, mini-bosses, and a combination of my own personal hells. All of the stages are very well designed and quite fun to traverse. Challenge aside, the visuals and creativity in enemy designs and just general aesthetics are pleasing to the eye as everything is bright and colorful and really pops out. You know, the funny thing is, Mighty No. 9 tried to do something like this, but ultimately got buried in the train wreck that was the rest of the game. Mega Man 11, on the other hand, lets you enjoy the scenery as you brave your way through it. Torchman stage really has a nice night forest theme going on with Indian huts in the back. Acid Man stage is pretty creative with different chemicals that if you're quick on the draw, you can actually destroy the oncoming threats that can change them to become harmful. Tundra Man has these sections where the air is really strong and pushes you far when you jump, kinda similar in Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels or in Ninja Gaiden 2. And Blast Man, whom I question why he has a theme park setting dedicated to him, has a theme park setting dedicated to him. And it looks great. So as far as visuals, you can color me impressed. The game has the cel-shaded cartoon style, which honestly I cannot get enough of as it's easy to work with and you don't have to do too much to make it look pleasing. It's partly why I loved Breath of the Wild so much. The cel-shaded textures just pop out a lot more and look so inviting. I mentioned in between stages you have to deal with some mini-bosses. Some of these guys are definitely easier than others and require a little quick thinking to figure out how to properly deal with them. Keep in mind, I'm also on the hardest setting, so what I'm dealing with may be easier for you if you chose any other mode. Blast Man stage took some evasive maneuvers because this mini-boss couldn't be damaged by regular means. I had to wait for one of these little guys to fall out and blast him back on the oncoming trolley several times to break them down. Block Man's was simple enough, avoid the rotating gears and shoot the ones with the eyes. Even Impact Man's mini-boss took some quick thinking, as these guys can be difficult to predict on what attacks are coming. So by the by, there is a lot of creativity with the enemies, and it feels very fresh every time and not just a rinse and repeat. After completing a few stages, Mega Man returns home to hear from Dr. Light the unfortunate tale of his younger days with Wily back at the university, and how even their rivalry was hostile even then. Dr. Light admits he tried to put out the flames, but it ended up only fueling the fire and making matters worse. Nothing we didn't already know, but hey, what you gonna do? Wily's a dick. As of now, I had defeated enough bosses and was gaining their powers, so at this point I was really trying to figure out the best way to utilize them. While they do serve as weaknesses for other bosses, sometimes you can find unique ways to take advantage of them in stages. And, I've got nothing. I did spend a little time with each weapon and tried to find how useful it could be, and sadly, there just really wasn't much use I could get out of any of them. Well, to be fair, there were a couple. The Fuse Man's Scramble Thunder ability has its uses, it can light up dark places, and it is powerful enough to one-shot a few foes. And the Pile Driver from Impact Man has a nice air dash akin to the X series, but it can be risky to use, especially over pits where I tend to fail the most with it. So aside from those situational moments, I couldn't find any real use for any of the sub-weapons beyond the bosses. In fact, I think some of them are just really kinda lame. The Blast Man Chain Blast looks cool in theory, but it's too slow and requires time to detonate, and that's just not handy. The Acid Barrier was actually a big disappointment. Granted, again, I'm on Mega Man Must Die mode, so the Acid Barrier probably just isn't as effective here. But unlike in Mega Man 9 or Mega Man 10 with their barriers, from the Jewel to Bubble, this Acid Barrier couldn't really block much of anything. So, sadly, I feel like this was kind of a missed opportunity. I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you guys find some of these weapons. Do you think they're more useful? Did you find a good way to utilize them in stages outside of boss battles? Blockman's Block Dropper also had some but minimal use since it's got high range and okay reach, but again, pretty situational. During stages, a lot can go wrong, but if you take advantage of the shop, you can use those upgrades to your advantage. Buying Beat the Bird has actually been a lifesaver on a few occasions, with those death pets. Eddie, oddly enough, I never even used. He drops the usual helpful or non-helpful random items, but by the time I needed any help, I was actually stocked with enough E-tanks to keep me going. So, Eddie's there if you want to use him, I guess. After defeating all 8 Robot Masters, it's time to take on Wily's Castle. Compared to past games, even on the harder difficulty setting, Wily's Castle surprisingly isn't that hard. The first stage has you hopping from gear to gear, and if you're quick about it and light on your feet, the obstacles aren't gonna make you sweat that much. Using Rush Jet or Rush Coil to help you out makes it easier too. Oh, that's right, I probably should mention that. One brand new feature I really freaking love. Rush has now been assigned to dedicated buttons. No longer do we have to tediously go to the menu and select which Rush item to use. Now, with the press of triangle or circle, he can instantly come out and trigger Rush Coil or Rush Jet, and oh my god, I love it. God damn, why did it take so long for that to become a thing? In fact, all of the sub-weapons can be summoned up on the fly with the right analog stick, but I actually find it's much safer to just pause the game and select them. Trust me, you really don't want to be fumbling about in real time, getting killed on the side.
Now let's talk about the double gear system. Yes, the game's main gimmick.
It's a very simple mechanic. The shoulder buttons can trigger them at any time, and you have them right from the start of the game. The right button triggers the speed gear, which slows everything down to bullet time, allowing you to bypass or avoid any speedy oncoming obstacles or threats. The left button activates the power gear, which doubles the attack and damage of any weapon you have equipped or charged. So if you have a small bomb and then use the power gear, it will turn into a much bigger bomb, and so on. There's a small limit to their use, though. The longer you have one of them activated, the gauge continues to rise, and if it overheats, then you gotta wait a little longer for the cooldown before you can use it again. However, if you can strategically switch it on and off at the right times when you feel it necessary, you can be pretty disgusting with how easy you can shift the tide of battles. Admittedly, the gear system took a little bit of getting used to, since I'm kind of a veteran Mega Man fan, and I'm very used to the old-fashioned mentality of getting good when it comes to the crap that I have to avoid, and I actually ended up forgetting that I even had this gear system at all. But then when I remember that I do have it, it ultimately does make things much easier. The speed gear is probably the most useful ability in the entire game, as many of the obstacles and bosses kinda require it just for you to stand a chance. The power gear, on the other hand, once again, like the other powers, I only found it to be useful in those very situational moments, and rarely, if ever, used it. I really do feel like the game was well built around the speed gear, as you can see just how effective it is firsthand when avoiding oncoming foes. I really like this mechanic, and I hope it comes back in future games. It's a neat gimmick that I don't find at all to be intrusive to the overall experience. You don't absolutely have to use it either. I mean, if you learn the stages and patterns of the bad guys enough, you could comfortably get through the game without triggering it, but it is nice to have it for a rainy day. At the end of Wily Stage 1, you have to fight— No! No! Damn, not this asshole again! Oh! Damn it! Oh, this thing is way too fast! How am I so— Oh, wait. Yeah, I can cheat too, you bastard! Alright, Wily Stage 2 also isn't that difficult. Mostly it just requires you to use the speed gear to outrun some of the traps, but by now you should be really good at using it. Even the boss here isn't a real threat either. Just shoot it when its shell opens up. Wily Stage 3, to my surprise, is a dedicated stage just for the boss rush. It's a good thing, too, because I am not kidding around. If you are playing this on superhero mode, bring 9 lives and max out your inventory, because weaknesses or no, these guys will drain you. Finally, after all that, it's time to take on Wily. As you'd expect, he's rocking kind of the similar tactics from previous Mega Man games, but now complete with speed missiles. Of course, with the speed gear, this fight becomes an absolute joke, and the final fight isn't that much harder. Looks cool, though. Now, Dr. Wily's plan for killing Mega Man is drive-by shouting. After the final hit, Wily is defeated. Dr. Light comes in trying to explain to Wily that both of them are great scientists in their own right, and that Mega Man's the proof of that since he's a combination of both their geniuses. Wily, of course, predictably disregards any attempt at peace and escapes, warning that he'll always strike again. Why Mega Man doesn't attempt to stop and arrest him? Oh, to hell with it. The group escapes with the remains of the 8 Robot Masters, and they're all rebuilt and back to normal. The day is saved, and so ends Mega Man's newest adventure. Actually, now that I think about it, here's what's a little weird. Dr. Light decreed the invention of Dr. Wily, thwarts his research, which Mega Man uses in this very game, the double gear system. Light goes on to say that it was too dangerous, and then afterward, Dr. Light decides to use the double gear system for faster cleanup duty. You know, maybe if he didn't give Dr. Wily such a hard time, then he wouldn't have become such an egotistical nut, Light. Oh, who am I kidding? Yes, he would have.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean, what else is there to say? Capcom did it. They brought Mega Man back from the dead. I mean, where I originally thought the Mega Man formula was starting to get a little stale, I mean, at least in terms of story progression, things are still rather very samey. In terms of gameplay, it was still filled with a lot of fun, fresh, imaginative ideas and creative innovations that kept it fresh and fun to play.
The double gear system was a genius idea, and it added some optional depth to make the platforming interesting and lends to some pretty inspired level designs and unique boss fights. The music ultimately, I believe, did its job and lends to the stages, but I don't know yet if I'm in love with it. I'm gonna have to sit on the music for a while before I make that decision. It's kind of a taste thing, really, but it does fit. I was very glad Capcom decided to go for the cel-shaded look instead of the retro 8-bit kick. I was satisfied with Mega Man 9 and 10, but I did long for Mega Man to push the boundaries again. While this game isn't going balls to the wall crazy with innovation that reinvents what Mega Man's all about, it stays true to its legacy but isn't afraid to bring in some fresh ideas to keep it from standing out among the crowd. And for only $29.99, it's a great deal. Beyond the game, there's also additional modes like leaderboards and bonus challenges if you want to keep the fun coming. So, hey, I give this game a high recommendation. I have no idea how Mighty Number 9 became such a Mighty Number 2, but as I've said it before, I'll say it again. When it comes to Mega Man, accept no substitutions.
And with that, that's my review and take on Mega Man 11, a classic franchise that I grew up with and have loved for many years and still love even to this day. And I hope with the success of this game that Mega Man continues to thrive and go on even more adventures. Maybe we might even get some major story progressions in the future, who knows. Anyway guys, it's been a long ride. We got other reviews coming out in the very near future. I've got Mega Man X series, which I'm still doing, working on that. It's just been very hectic, a lot of things going on at the house. I got to take care of family things now and then, as you guys might have remembered from postings. But he's back.
Hey there everyone, did you like this video? If you did, why not give us a thumbs up and maybe leave a comment and watch some more of our stuff. Also, if you really want to keep up with the Brotherhood of Gaming, such as myself, William Morris, or Eugene, you should really follow us on our Twitters, links provided below, so you can see what's coming up in the future. And since, we have to play these games sometimes and record them, why not join us on our Twitch page where you can hang out with all of us as we do so and chit-chat about the games that we love so much. Lastly, if you want to help keep our dreams alive, you can support us in any number of ways, either by continuing to view our videos, like them, share them with all your friends and family and your peeps and your girlfriends, or you can also join our small Patreon and throw all your spare cash away. We'll even give you a shout out. Once again, thank you all and have a wonderful day.